Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. This is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and as always, I'm joined by my first officer, Jeremy Graventon. Folks, welcome to the 11th nationally televised gutless opposition party presidential candidate debate. Can you believe that we have reached the 11th nationally televised debate? And boy, what can we say about what we witnessed this evening on television? I can tell you right here and right now that Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus looked absolutely horrific. He looked like crap. And that's because his positions are crap. You know, folks, I hate to be crass about this. Actually, I'm rather enjoying being crass when it comes to Donaldus because I find that the man is a charlatan, a fraud, a fake, and a con artist. He really is the P.T. Barnum of our age. And remember, folks, that P.T. Barnum was the soul who not only invented the circus sideshow freak, the circus freak sideshow thing, he also coined the phrase that there is a sucker born every minute. And that's absolutely what he believes, and that is absolutely what we would be getting from Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus. Going into this debate, they were all saying, they being the graduates of Pavlov School of Journalism for the salivating mainstream media, they were all saying that Trump is the inevitability, that there is no way to stop the tidal wave of Trumpus's camp. Well, I think we saw on this debate stage the veneer, that thin veneer, that orange mask over his face start to crack and crumble. And we'll see the true character of the hairpiece. And we did see the true character of the hairpiece on full display, Jeremy. I think we absolutely did, in his inability to answer any questions. And the only thing that he could do was, cite back to polls. He could only hurl personal insults. He could only attack. That's all he is capable of.
It's not only that, but he proved tonight, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he's a dictator. He's a fascist. Now, Randy, I do have to give a shout out to Anne-Marie Morel of the Politichicks and thank her for hosting another GOP debate watch party. I've only participated in a couple of those, and I'm going to tell you right now, tonight was the most fun that I had. Probably, and I'm going to pull a little bit of a Trump here, probably because of the amount of likes I got on my comments, blah, 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 whatever. The fact of the matter is...
off your head. Get that skunk off your head.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. It was fun because it revealed to me more people are under the impression and coming to the realization that Trump is a dictator. He absolutely is. In fact, he even said so much himself tonight when he said, if I tell them to do it, they will do it. Only dictators speak in that fashion, period.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the way it is. And, you take, I have to go back on this Mussolini thing. You take Trump, you take Mussolini, you put them together. What do you have? Trumpolini. I know.
It sounds like a terrible food. It honestly does. It sounds like something that you would go and have in Italy, and you'd get all sorts of unspeakable and unmentionable diseases, probably sexually transmitted diseases, because it sounds like it's a bad sexual food, too. Yeah, I'm sorry, folks. It's just what it is.
And let's face it, Trump could not, he couldn't hold a thimbleful of any of the, even John Kasich. He couldn't hold a thimbleful of John Kasich perspiration tonight.
No, well, and I am going to bring down some pressure to bear on John Kasich. John, I know your father was a mailman. I know you're very proud of that. I know that you still think it's the 1980s because your father failed to get the calendar to you on time. Because he is a United States postal worker. I'm sorry, United States postal workers, I just have to make this humor, because if you've watched any of the debates prior to this one, you know that is the thing that John Kasich mentions in damn near every debate. My father was a mailman, I came up from these poor things. Well, here, here, John, it's better late than never. Your father has delivered this message to you. Drop out.
Yeah.
Drop out.
You know, and stop trying to be flamboyant and arrogant. And stop trying to be Trump, okay? First of all, I'm pretty sure that Ohio put some kind of limitation. Yeah, I'm not sure of this, but roll with me on this. You're not going to find enough spray tan in Ohio to, make yourself look like Trump. Okay, it's just not going to happen. So stop saying that I'm going to be the nominee. If I'm not, I'll support other. No, stop it. You're not going to be. Don't hold out for Ohio. You're not going to win Ohio. It's just not going to happen. Drop out.
Yeah, it is time that all of the non-Trump people come together. We need to coalesce behind a true, principled, proven constitutionalist. The very lifeblood and future of this country are at stake. We can't just keep continuing to go down these paths of the status quo. And, this has to go to something that Rush Limbaugh has been mentioning time and again on his show for, I believe it's been at least the past 2 days. He keeps harping on this so-called class warfare between the so-called establishment wing of the gutless opposition party, or GOP, and the average voter. He says that what we're seeing is not just a temper tantrum being thrown by the people. You're right. What we're seeing is not merely a temper tantrum. It is a movement. But let me say something right here and right now, Rush. What you are seeing with respect to Trump, that's not real anger. That's destructiveness. That is a mob mentality, mobocracy. Mobocracy.
Chaos.
Is what you are seeing there. Anger will come when true principled constitutionalists are blocked due to a circus sideshow freak that is standing in the way of progress in this country. And no, I don't mean progress in the method in which, or by the definition of which, the progressives are mentioning it. What I mean is that they are standing in the way of actually, meaningfully removing the chains and shackles of government bondage and tyranny, thereby allowing the ultimate wielders of sovereignty in this great representative republic of ours to take the steps that are necessary to bring this country back to prosperity, fruition, and to the sort of message and vision that our founding fathers had for this country at its inception over 230 years ago. Then you will see anger. You will see the tar and feathers of the original revolutionary spirit grip this country like it hasn't since the American War of Independence.
Now, see, I actually have to give kudos to Ted Cruz tonight. Naturally. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, nobody topped him tonight. He was the only one that hammered on what this country was made great by. And see, when he first opened up the debates, when he got his first chance to speak, he said, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact words that he used, but something to akin of this. It seems that Donald Trump and his supporters have forgotten and ignored what has made this country great. You can put anything you want on a hat, make this great, make that great. The fact of the matter is our country is great, always has been great, always will be great because of the United States Constitution. And when he said that, Trump just kind of, grinned a little bit. He got that grin. It's like his lips completely engulfed his face. And he turned oranger than usual because at this point, him being embarrassed, he doesn't turn red. He turns orange when he gets embarrassed. And Trump knew at that point in time right there that he was done. He was absolutely done because there's no way that he could justify saying we're going to make America great again after Ted Cruz come out and hit him with that. There's no way.
Well, of course there is. There's always a way with the Donald, and that is to ignore reality. Just like his followers do, just like all of the media pundits do. And no, folks, I'm not attacking Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus's followers here. What I am doing is pointing out that there is this pattern, this reality distortion field, for lack of a better term. What we see with respect to this is a phenomenon of an ostrich syndrome, where they just want to stick their heads in the sand. But going to the point that you made with respect to Ted Cruz, and the very important point he made, we are at a point now where, yes, we are still great, and we never ceased being great because of our shared United States Constitution. But that Constitution's in jeopardy. And I think it was a very important point that Ted Cruz made with respect to the vacancy on the United States Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Folks, mm-hmm. we implore you to consider what might happen if Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus were allowed to secure the nomination. Think about it. All of the most recent polls that are trending right now, as I speak into this microphone, clearly indicate that Donaldus Julius Caesar will be incapable of defeating either Hillary Rodham Clinton or Vermont Senator Noidface Boyne Sanders. He can't beat either of them. Ted Cruz can. And when our liberty, when our fundamental and unalienable rights are in as much jeopardy as they are in right now, we simply cannot afford to take a risk of gambling on a gambler. We just can't do it. But I did think of a way that Trump could make Mexico pay for the wall. He could put slot machines on the wall. He's good at that. And maybe they come and play it. But the problem is they don't have any money to play the slots either. So again, even my little joke there falls flat on its face because it cannot be satisfied or sustained or achieved in reality.
Regarding the wall from Mexico, yeah. See, Trump has this grandiose illusion that he's going to get Mexico to pay for it. How in the hell is that going to happen? Mexico is not run by their own government. The drug cartels run Mexico. So they run all the money there. They run everything there. Why would the drug cartels want to pay for something that is going to impede their business? Oh, because Donald Trump says that they're going to do it, so they're going to do it. If he tells them to do it, they're going to do it. Really?
Yeah, that's that dictator mentality coming back into it.
So basically what he fails to realize is when you tell the drug cartels that they're going to do something, they're going to say, yeah, nope, sorry, Farouk, this is what we're going to do. And it's going to create a bigger mess. Now, I have a viable solution for Trump. If he wants to have his wall, you can always take Chris Christie and pretend that he's a Stretch Armstrong action figure and stretch him out like that. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, again, being the...
But, Jeremy, that's cruel and unusual punishment because you'd be denying him hamburgers. And if you deny him hamburgers, he's not going to do too well. He's going to suffer. And we can't have real Krispy Kreme suffer.
But that is really the only viable solution because, let's face it, the only way to get Mexico to pay for that wall, first of all, you have to get them into the position to where they can pay for it, meaning the Mexican government, which means you're going to have to eliminate the drug cartels.
And I thought that Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus was against nation building. Isn't that one of the things that he had, one of the problems that he had with George W. Bush going into Iraq in the first place?
Yes,
I think
it is.
so. Again, this is just yet another example of the Donaldus being consistently inconsistent. That's all he is capable of doing, is being absolutely and consistently inconsistent. And you see, folks, this is not the sort of character or characteristics or personality traits that we would expect from somebody who is going to be the leader of the free world. I mean, when we stop and think about it, he is absolutely destructive. There is no other way to describe it. There is no other characteristics or attributes to attribute to him. And that ultimately disqualifies him. And then when you've got all of these white supremacist cases and his retweeting of an Il Duce Mussolini account, it just once again solidifies that he is this fascist, that he has this dictatorial mindset that has no place in an open and honest society like that of the United States of America.
But he disavowed the KKK tonight. Excuse me.
And he said, but you know, it was his demeanor when he did it, because he was speaking at it as, oh, well, Chris, you're the 18th person to have asked me about that, and I've already disavowed him. I've disavowed him. Well, here's the problem. When he was on Clapper's program on CNN, he claimed that it was due to a faulty earpiece. Claimed that it was a faulty earpiece and that he couldn't hear, yet he repeated verbatim, repeatedly, the questions, David Duke's name, and then said that he had never heard of David Duke. Folks, that was a bold-faced lie. There is no other way to describe that than being a bold-faced lie. And the reason that I can say it's a bold-faced lie is back in 2000, Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus penned an op-ed piece for the New York Times rag in which he said that the primary motivator driving him out of the Reform Party was the fact that a white supremacist bigot by the name of David Duke was a member of the Reform Party, or had become a member of the Reform Party. And I want to take this a step further, because I've noticed that a lot of the Trumpettes have been coming out and squawking in their discordant manner, saying that David Duke said that he's met with the Democrats far more often than Donald Trump. So what? This is now David Duke doing everything he can to backpedal and to obfuscate the truth, to try and keep Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus in a good light. There is no other way to describe that either. And you see, folks, this is all part of an orchestrated effort to keep his image up to a certain point. But I think it's all part of a grand design. I think that Trojan Trumpus is absolutely a wedge being utilized as a tool, or a wedge to divide conservatives in this country, to pit us against one another, so that while our great republic is burning in the flames of chaos and destruction, Hillary Rotten Clinton can then waltz in, and claim the office, irrespective of the fact that she is one of the weakest Democratic candidates that have been seen in living memory.
But Trump says that he could beat Hillary. Really?
None of the polls support that. Not a single poll supports that. And it just goes to show that he is being consistently inconsistent yet again. I mean, is there any way that we can absolutely trust anything that comes out of his flapping gums? I honestly think there is no way we can trust a blessed thing this man says.
Well, bless his heart. You know,
use Southern terminology there.
He keeps talking about, you know, well, this poll says this. I've done this. I've done this. I do this. I'm a leader. Believe me, I'm a leader. None of these guys are leaders. Believe me. You know, for somebody who never repeats himself,
he sure repeats himself a lot. And why does he keep saying, believe me? You know what? That right there says that his biggest fear is that nobody's going to believe. what he's saying. And it absolutely shows that he doesn't believe himself what he's saying. That is the telltale sign of a pathological liar. And folks, I think we can all safely bet on the fact that Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus absolutely is a pathological liar, and therefore doesn't even know what the truth is anymore. I don't think he'd know what the truth was if it would come up and bite him in the posterior.
Well, if he doesn't believe himself, then my guess is that there's some validity to those tapes that he doesn't want released.
Oh, hey, absolutely.
Donald Trump, right here, right now. Not only did Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and numerous other people demand that you have those tapes released, release the tapes. If you don't,
no excuses. We are past the point of excuses.
If you don't release those tapes, it only proves one thing. You say it's because you have too much respect. I say it's because you have too much to hide. Now, if you have nothing to hide, release the tapes, period.
How is hiding something having respect? You see, it's not respect for anything. Respect for what? Respect for the New York Times? There's no respect in that rag. After all, wasn't it they who leaked the news that those tapes even were in existence? So come on, Donald. You can do better than that. You have to do better than that because the American people deserve better than that. And you are trying to vie to become the wielder of the highest office in the land in this great representative republic of ours. Well, if you're going to vie to do that, then you need to learn to obey the will of the American people and to capitulate and strictly adhere to the absolute scriptures of our shared Constitution. You see, that's the problem with Donaldus. He has always been a bit of a spoiled brat. He's been able to get away with whatever he's wanted to because he's had everything handed to him on a silver platter. This is another reason why I draw some contention with or disagreement with what Rush Limbaugh's message has been on his show for the past several days. If it's about this class warfare thing, why are these people reaching out to Donald J. Trump? He's been trying to buy his way into the country club elitist mentality of the party. And folks, make no bones about it, he absolutely does look down upon you with the utmost contempt.
Now, let's go back to this respect thing for a second. and pardon me, folks, I'm still battling a little bit of an illness here. See, saying that hiding those tapes or not releasing them is a sign of respect. That's like saying, you know what? You come home from work or your spouse comes home from work, finds you in bed with another individual, and yet they don't see the individual, but clearly they know they were there, but you have the individual hiding in the closet or under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. See, those tapes are going to reveal the truth. The truth being that you were either lying then or you're lying now, or you've been lying the whole time.
And I think we could safely assume that he has simply been lying the entire time because he is a pathological liar. That's why he always has to repeat, believe me, believe me, believe me. You know, I think it's funny that they went after Narco Rube EIEIO for constantly repeating himself. Remember back in New Hampshire, they kept calling him the narco bot. Basically, they had those two guys dress up in their robot costumes following Marco Rubio all across the state. Well, this is what Donaldus Trumpus is. He is a pathological liar who no longer feels capable of telling the truth and is incapable of telling whether he himself is telling the truth. Is that really the sort of person or the sort of caliber of person that we should be giving or handing the reins of political power to? I don't think so.
No. And again, it's projection on his part. See, he claims that he's a leader. He's a good businessman. He does this. He walks into a room. People listen. No, people don't do what he tells them to do. He projects. That's all this is. That's all he is. He's a projection machine. That's it. He projects that Ted Cruz was lying tonight. He even called him Ted the liar. Really? What does Ted Cruz have to gain about lying about anything? Nothing. Not a damn thing.
Yeah.
So who's the liar here? He called you out on something, and your only response is, well, you're a liar. That's wrong. You're a liar. And then after the fact, after the debate, standing there talking to Bill O'Reilly, you made comments about, I didn't catch who the other candidate was that the comment was about, but you said that your retort was better than his. I'm a winner. I'm the leader. My retorts are better. Just look at the polls. Look at the Facebook poll that Fox had about, me being the most talked about person, blah, blah. That means I'm better than everybody else. I'm the leader. You should vote for me. No, you haven't cited anything regarding your policies on how you would handle anything. I'm guessing we're going to have to wait for the release of your upcoming book, Mein Drumpf, before we find out anything that you're all about. Kind of like, the whole Nancy Pelosi thing, which you wrote a check to, by the way.
Oh, he wrote a check to everybody. He wrote a check to everybody. And Jeremy, I'm going to take this a step further, because I think this is something that we need to delve into, particularly when it comes to the mindset of those who are following the Donaldists, those dying-in-the-wool supporters that he has. They almost seem fanatical, and I'm not attacking them for that. There's nothing wrong with having great passion. But when that is a manipulated passion, it can lead you into directions that you don't want to ever go. But I do believe that there is a comparison to be made here. His followers absolutely remind me of the followers that Ron Paul had, the original Ron Paul's supporters. And what I mean by that is that they are able to just divorce themselves from reality. They would support their candidate no matter what he said during the debate stage, even if everything that he said was just absolute malarkey and nonsense.
Money bomb.
Yeah, your money bomb, the Bilderbergers, I win the debate. That's literally what it came down to each and every time. But that's not a debate. That's not getting to the heart of the matter of the issues that really impact and affect the United States of America and her people. And you see, folks, that is the major problem that we are facing in this country right now. Politics has basically devolved into this sort of empty bumper sticker and platitude sort of affair that really doesn't get into or discuss the political philosophies, the important issues, the policy sorts of decisions that would propel this country back to prosperity.
Well, he's incapable of doing that.
Of course he is.
He doesn't want to do that.
Right.
He doesn't care about anybody but himself. I mean, tonight, every time he spoke, it was me, I. It sounded like, he was, acting as a maestro for his follicle orchestra to just, be all lackadaisical and flop about and this and that. It really does not bode well with the American people. People don't like arrogance. There's a difference between being arrogant and cocky and being confident. See, Ted Cruz is confident.
That's because he has the credentials to back up the things that he's saying.
Exactly.
Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus has nothing to back up what he says. He just stands there and bloviates with no substance to back it up whatsoever. And you see, folks, that is what's sickening. Because if you look at the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, he is basically a carbon copy of the orange blowfish that we saw on the debate stage this evening. And make no bones about it, folks, he is absolutely an orange blowfish. You watch his cheeks just go as he speaks. As those lips come, he looks like a largemouth bass. Largemouth blowfish bass with a bad haircut. I mean, that's literally what he is, because he has nothing to back up anything of what he says. And you notice that Chris Wallace attempted to push him a few times to try and get substantive answers out of him. And it's as though he's got these 3 memorized lines. It's, I'm great, believe me, huge, and liar. That's about it. That's about all.
I'm a winner, I'm a leader, blah, blah, blah.
You're a loser, all of that.
Now, let's speak to, touching on this credibility thing, which solidifies confidence. I would even say that Marco Rubio is confident. Even John Kasich is confident.
Well, Marco does have something that he's accomplished. He's run away from the Gang of 8 bill. I mean, that's a great accomplishment.
Yeah, and even with credibility, John Kasich, talks about what he did as governor of Ohio.
And don't forget that his father was a mailman.
Yeah. But
did you know that his father was a mailman? Just make sure we got that.
Just to be clear that his father was a mailman. But all of these things that, good or bad, that either Rubio or Kasich and even Cruz have done, they have credibility. Trump's only credibility is he harkens on, well, I built a company. I built the company. I did this. I did that. I know it. Everybody, most of the people know it. I've got, I've hired people all over the world. Now, explain this. Explain this to me, okay? And I'm really, I'm running at risk of damaging myself here physically, folks. Explain this to me. You talk about bringing all these jobs back to the United States, keeping all the manufacturing here. Why in the hell are you setting up corporations and businesses in other parts of the world and hiring people over there? Are you going to close up those shops and bring them back here? I find that hard to believe for 2 reasons. Number one, no.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to that. It is that the shops that are over there, they want the cheaper labor. That's what it comes down to. And they would try and bring that over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so you see, it's a back door for his touchback amnesty type thing. He would be letting all of these people come in quickly. And you notice that one of the things that Trump said with respect to that was that he was shifting his position on that. Why? We don't want a shift in position. What we want is someone who is principled.
But how's he going to do this?
He's not going to be able to do it.
He's not going to be able to do it. He won't close up his businesses over there for the number one reason of A, it's going to take money out of his pockets. Mm-hmm. Period. Number two, as president of the United States, he's not going to be able to operate those businesses. He has to divest himself from them. How's he going to be able to control those businesses? Always put them in the hands of his family, his kids. Really? Which one? Donald Jr., who's stumping around, getting, ironing
with
his
clan.
Sheet. He's ironing his sheet right now and pressing his hood. Really? So yeah, let's see if that works. It's not going to. So again, more, hyperbole and double speak coming out of the bloated orange blowfish. Good.
Yeah. It just goes to show that everything that we have with respect to Donald just doesn't tie into anything. Nothing of actual substance. And again, that's why I think he's a bit of what I'd call a Trojan horse candidate.
Mhm.
He's there to basically drive a wedge between all of the conservative-minded elements of the party, thereby ensuring defeat, absolute, total, and complete defeat in the general election, thereby ushering Hillary Rotten Clinton into the highest office in the land.
I just can't. I don't understand why he thinks he can beat Hillary Clinton. It just does not make any sense to me. There's no way he's going to be able to do that. Does he not? Does he? Surely he understands exactly how patient, conniving, and underhanded she is. I'm sure he understands that about her.
Oh, I'm sure
So
he does.
for him
too.
to say that during the course of the debate, when he said, I haven't even begun to hit on Hillary yet. I haven't been able to begin to talk about her yet. But when I do, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, that's a big when. You're not going to. You know why? Because she has too much on you. My guess is that A, you're not going to be railing against her because she probably has the means of getting those tapes released. I wouldn't be surprised. Hell, Randy, you and I could probably get those tapes.
Yeah, if we really, really wanted to. It would take forever.
Well,
Because
at least it would be quicker than getting the mail from
Sure.
John Kasich's dad.
Sure. This just in, it was mailed to us by John Kasich. It says, by the way, my father works for the post office. Thank you, John Kasich. We would have never guessed. Now, if only he would get the memo that he should drop out of the race, then everything would be hunky-dory, everything would be peachy keen. But I don't think that that John Kasich is wanting to wake up to reality or wanting to face the facts.
No. Now, I have another question and something I think we should discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's unadulterated fear of Mitt Romney. That's what it is. He's afraid of Mitt Romney. It's obvious. He says he's not. He says he has no, inclination to be afraid of him. Romney's done this, blah, blah, blah. You're afraid of Romney. Why? I'll tell you why. Now, this is just me thinking, and Randy and I have discussed this a few minutes prior to the show tonight.
Mm.
I think that Mitt Romney has political aspirations still. I don't think he's going to jump into the race. I think Mitt Romney may be positioning himself to take over as the head of the RNC. Now, I could be wrong, but it kind of occurred to me and kind of hit me with that. And I'm thinking that is why Trump is afraid. See, Trump says, I love the Republican Party, but yet before he said that the Republican Party was stupid, nothing but stupid voters. That's why he would run as president under the Republican ticket, because the voters are dumb, according to Trump. I think Trump, as Randy said before, is a wedge, a Trojan plant placed here by the Fabian socialists to divide the party, to divide conservatives, to tear this country down. Now, how he's going to do that, I don't know. If he's going to act as a wedge, it may be some kind of new yoga technique that he develops. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm thinking, Randy, along these lines, and you and I both are not Rubio supporters at all.
No.
For the most part of him holding the office of the presidency.
Right.
But I do like the idea, I'm kind of warming up to it, of in order to keep Donaldus from destroying this country and keep Hillary from riding in on the beast as the whore of Babylon that she is.
Mm-hmm.
Marco Rubio takes the VP position under Ted Cruz. I'm warming up to that idea because Cruz would be able to pull that Batman backhanded slap to the boy Wonder should he step out of line.
Of course.
Say, no, you're VP, not going to happen. And see, that would also prevent Rubio from possibly becoming president later on, too. It maybe not totally prevent him from doing it, but it could put a real stifle in his plans should he think about doing it after 8 years of Cruz.
Yeah. And, I think part of the reason why we have to open up to this idea is we have to bring in the moderate wing because of the extent that Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus has divided this party. I mean, he literally has divided this party. There are people who are getting into knockdown, drag-out fights over just the contentious nature of this 2016 presidential election cycle. And the reason that it's that way is because of the tone and the lack of civil discourse that has been pushed, promoted, fronted, and forwarded by Donaldus. There's no other way to look at it than that, and it was done on purpose. I absolutely believe it was done on purpose, and I think what we're seeing with Mitt Romney is an attempt to put the pieces back together. Now, there are a lot of a lot of Trump followers that are sitting here saying that this is Romney attempting to step in and take the vote away from the people. And there's a few Cruz supporters that have gone forth with that line too. But I think that this approach goes more along the lines of the principles of Occam's razor, which I think it's never usually a conspiratorial answer. It's usually, if there is a simple explanation, it's 9 times out of 10 going to be that most simple explanation. And I absolutely believe that that is what we're seeing play out here. And that would certainly be the most reasonable, the most open, the most obvious path that it would be. Because let's face it, has Reince Priebus been effective as leader of the RNC? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no.
No, and it's not to say that Romney would be effective either, but
right.
it just, something is telling me that is the position that he's vying for. He's trying to maneuver himself into, that area to where he can have his hands into things. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, would that be a good thing for the Republican Party? I don't think so. Not in the long run. But in the short term, and see, I'm the type of individual, I look short term and long term. You have to be able to accomplish the short term in order to achieve the long term. Short term speaking, it would be a good thing because A, it would put so much fear into Donald Trump that he would have no choice. And even Trump tonight said that if any of the other candidates got the nomination, what, besides me, as arrogant as his quaff allowed him to be, he said that he would support them. So,
and that means that we need to put a full-out assault to disable his campaign, folks.
So, with that being said, having Romney in a position to where it will shake Trump to his core will cause his ivory tower to crumble. He drops out of the race. Rubio is out of the race because he is not
he's incapable of winning anything.
He's incapable of winning, but he doesn't drop out of the race because of that, but he does it because he is offered, not promised, but offered the chance of being VP more so than anybody else. He has first crack at it.
Yeah,
behind Ted Cruz.
Or offer of first refusal.
Right. Behind Ted Cruz. I think Rubio would look at that and now Rubio is not, he's not an idiot. I'm not going to call him an idiot because that would be an insult to idiots. But he's not an idiot because even Rubio would have to acknowledge the fact that would still give him some glimmer of hope of potentially holding a higher office at some point.
Yeah,
Whether or not it will come to fruition doesn't matter.
Right.
It's
Think of it as the relationship between George H.W. Bush and Ronald Reagan in 1980. And, you've noticed that Ted Cruz has made a lot of the comparisons here, the alliterations here, that he is basically like the second coming of Reagan. Mm-hmm. And even Rush Limbaugh has come out and said that in his lifetime, this is the closest he believes that we can come again in his lifetime to another Reagan. Now, I happen to believe that Cruz will be an even stronger, more principled, constitutionalist conservative than Reagan. His training, his background, and all of the story of how he was raised and who he is would absolutely lend credence to that. It shows that he would not waver in his second term, at least. And of course, you always have to use history as your guiding post here, because past conduct is the best indicator or measuring stick to determine future outcomes. That I don't think he would have that fold like Reagan did in his second term.
No, so Cruz would be more like Coolidge.
Absolutely.
So
but I'm trying to keep it in living memory.
Right, and. This isn't to say that we're huge Reagan fans or supporters. First of all, I was born 1980, during Reagan's first term or just before Reagan's first term. And, being that young, I don't remember Reagan's first term. The only... I can remember things, but at that age, Reagan left the office when I was 9 years old. What 9-year-old out there really understood or had any grasp or could even grasp? I'm sure there are a few, but generally speaking, what 9-year-old would have a grasp or even remember some of the policies? I had to look back at history to have an understanding of how politics were back in the 80s when I grew up. Now, looking back at that, Reagan's first term, absolutely great. Absolutely great. Had no problems with Reagan. It was his second term. So, is Reagan the perfect president? No. Was Coolidge? No. Were Thomas Jefferson or any of the founding fathers that were presidents perfect? No. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But to align Cruz with somebody, he would actually be kind of a meld of Coolidge and Reagan, of Reagan's first term together. That's how I view Cruz.
Mm-hmm. And that's absolutely the sort of leadership that we need in the United States of America right now.
Sure.
Because there can be no question that we are in the midst of an identity crisis, because these Fabian socialists have gone out of their way to bring America onto her knees. Why? Because they are hell-bent on the destruction of our shared heritage, spirit, culture, but above all, our national identity. Why? So that they can replace it with their utopian socialist fantasy, this dystopia that they want to force and cram down our throats. But of course, that is diametrically opposed to the natural law tenets that absolutely underpin our Constitution and our representative Republican form of government. And that's kind of what we saw on the stage this evening. You remember in one of the last debates when Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpus was absolutely unable to coherently define conservatism? Mm-hmm. That was put on display again tonight. John Kasich looked like he had not a clue as to why he was there. Narco Rubio looked as though he was playing for that coveted VP spot, and Donaldus Julius Caesar looked like he was playing for the part of schoolyard bully. I mean, that's literally how it played out.
Yeah. And, you know, and here's the thing. How, when you stand up there and just allow yourself to go on the rants that you do. I'm a leader, I'm this, I'm that, I'm proven, but, and yet, see, this is what bothers me about him using the terminology of him being a leader. A true leader does not put themselves above anybody else. A true leader, whether you're in a business, whether you're in the military, whether you're on a football field, baseball team, whatever the case is, if you are in any position of authority to where you have people following you, you don't sit there and put yourself up on a pedestal. A true leader will take from his followers the best and brightest ideas, ideologies, suggestions, what have you, input, feedback, and you will use that and you will meld it together and you will build from that. See, Trump thinks that he's built everything already and he's just brought all these people with him. Everybody else is just along for the ride. He's going to do everything. When he says something's going to be done, people are going to do it.
And, you know, that's the framework for creating what is known as an imperial presidency, sort of what we're seeing now. Remember,
like a Fourth Reich.
Yeah, well, let me actually tie this into something that happened under our Führer here in the United States. Now, folks, well, you'll sit there and say, what do you mean, our Führer? Well, we had a dictator in the United States. Who can forget that FDR was elected for a fourth term in office? That's why we amended the Constitution to prohibit that from happening again, because it was an absolute utter failure and disaster for this country. But he also came in with this idea that he would have his own pre-created, his own pre-imagined, for lack of a better term, system, and that was known as his kitchen cabinet. He didn't want to have to be accountable to the American people. And that's kind of the same thing that you would get out of a Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpist presidency. He would absolutely not want to be held accountable to the ultimate wielders of sovereignty. He does not like to follow authority. He thinks he's above the law. He thinks he's superior. This goes to everything that Jeremy was just mentioning. And so in a sense, if we're going to compare these prospective candidates to various historical figures that could basically help give you an insight, the one that resembles Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpist to me is none other than FDR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, you know, he's got these progressive views. And FDR was a continuation of his cousin's views. And remember, his cousin, Theodore Roosevelt, is absolutely the father of the American conservative movement. And so he was doubling down on the efforts of his cousin to fundamentally transform the country.
American progressive movement.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what we're seeing the second wave of with Hillary Rodham Clinton, with Donaldus Julius Caesar Trumpist, and with the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue,
Adolf Obama.
Yes. So ultimately, what this all comes down to, folks, is that we have a choice to make in this 2016 election. We can choose to embrace our Constitution once again and to drive this country back towards the prosperity that we've come to know and expect, to live towards the goals and aspirations that our founding fathers set for this country over 230 years ago, based on those natural law tenets that are absolutely timeless, or we can accept the status quo and can continue to flounder and can slowly fall away towards abject ruin and permanent mediocrity.
By allowing somebody like, the leader, the self-proclaimed deal maker, to negotiate your rights away from you. Because that's what it'll boil down to. It's not that he would negotiate or stop at negotiating your rights to, the UN or to other foreign dignitaries. He would actually put you against your family or you against the government and say, look, here's the negotiating table. Yeah, these rights. Yeah, you can keep these rights, but in order to do that, you're going to have to,
sacrifice these other rights.
These ones.
Yeah.
Or, if you want this, it's kind of, it reminds me of the TSA.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the TSA. Well, people want to, you can travel. You have the right to travel. You have the right to freely move about the country. But when you get on, an airplane, or before you do, you're going to be subjected to illegal searches and seizures because, well, we want people to feel safe. So we're going to implement a measure of security or safety
that has no place in a free and open society.
But in order for that to happen, you have to, willingly allow yourself to be searched.
Mm-hmm.
You have to give up your rights. You can't take a bottle of water on the plane because, well, we don't know if that clear liquid is some kind of biological warfare agent. Even though the bottle's sealed and it's got plastic wrap, how do we know you didn't do this? It's insane.
You know what's funny about that is you look at the soft drinks and those other things that they take onto the plane from the catering people. Those guys don't go through security background checks.
No.
And so what's so funny is a bottled water that you bring in is probably safer
mm-hmm.
than anything that you'll get while you're in the airport or while you're on the plane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's funny amazing that they don't like to mention that.
No. But hey, it is the TSA, and it's been a while since we've mentioned our friends at the TSA.
Grab your blue glove.
Yeah, hold on to your complimentary, sack of nuts, folks. It's about to get bumpy.
Yeah.
It's just...
Hey, maybe they'll go sexually harass and assault some 20-year-old foreign exchange student again, because that's really going to make the United States of America look good worldwide, isn't it?
Well, it's what, pattern of that's what, every 23 months or so?
Give or take, yeah.
Give or take.
Depends on how, depends on what quota they set for themselves.
Yeah.
But anyway, folks, that's kind of the crux of what came out of this debate. You didn't really get a lot of policy discussion because Donaldus just wouldn't shut up. And I loved how Cruz sat there and instructed for him how to breathe. To learn how to basically shut that yap of his.
Yeah.
We saw that Rubio does have the ability to fight strongly for second place, but still fall short.
Mm-hmm.
And then we learned that John Kasich's father is a mailman. Although he didn't mention it in this debate, we just got the notice from the last debate, so we're mentioning what his father delivered to us a bit late. Right. So, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to begin our descent. I'm going to go ahead and send the flight attendant back for one last round of alcohol. As always, folks, I'm your captain, Randy Wright, and I'm joined by my first officer, Jeremy Grapington. Folks, we invite you to leave questions, comments, or concerns either here on our YouTube page, or on our Facebook page, or our Google Plus page. And we also invite you to follow us at Twitter with the Twitter handle at Radio Aviation X. That's all one word, folks, at Radio Aviation EX. Once again, that's at Radio Aviation EX. Also, we invite you to join us the next time we take off over the friendly airwaves, leaving you with an indelible yet pure sense of enlightenment, unlike any other radio program or venue. And we will see you next time. Do take care, folks.